Hey, Adam, I know I'm a little early with questions, but when you can, could you elaborate a little bit more on my gap size and how it would affect the mash? And so we're talking about roller mill gap size or mill gap size, right? There's different ways to measure that depending on whether or not you have two rollers, three rollers. Some people have like fancy hammer mills. Some mills, the grain is prehydrated. There's all sorts of different things. The big picture here, Corey, if you can, is you do want to find yourself an appropriate sized grain sieve or sieve. I call it a sieve. I would bop around a little bit and maybe ask around. If you're on the pro side, hit up some of the pros in your area, or if you're in a homebrew club, see if somebody does have one of those. I don't feel comfortable giving real specific measurements because there's so many different types of mills. If you're looking for kind of like a visual, there's a great book called How to Brew by John Palmer. I have it in here somewhere. Maybe I let somebody borrow it. I think I have the newest copy. You can look there and it'll give you kind of a visual of a crush. I always prefer a little bit coarser of a crush. And I'm using a finer crush now, but I feel as if the comfort for me with a coarser crush was I was always worried about sticking a really big mash, right? And kind of going a little bit coarser. Maybe I lose a little bit on efficiency, but I actually found in some cases by going a little bit coarser, I actually improved the lauderability or the capacity to flow hot sparge water through that grain bed. So yeah, you might want to play around with it a little bit and check that out and see how that works. What you're going to find is you ask about gap size and how it would affect the mash. You're going to hit a point where when your crush is too coarse, you are going to get a lower amount of saccharification or sugar out of your mash. If you kind of get into the sweet spot for your system, whatever that crush ratio is, things will kind of optimize. You can go beyond that and you can get to the point to maybe where you're pulverizing the husk. The idea is that you want a lot of relatively intact husk. Like you don't want that completely fragmented. It's because it's that husk that's actually helping to facilitate the lauderability or the capacity to flow water throughout the entire portion of that mash, right? So if you go too far, you might get more extract out of it because you have all this starch that you've crushed and it's available. But the problem is you might just turn in your lauter ton or your mash ton into kind of a gluey brick because everything's so fine. There's no way to pass liquid through it, right? It's a little bit of a trial and error. If you don't have one of the sieve racks, there's some cool stuff on it. We have one. I should talk to Chase about it, and maybe I could do a tutorial with that. And maybe it's something I'd be able to post. That's kind of my take on that. Good to see you in the chat, Corey.